Hello and welcome not to the best of three, but to Player One. This is an interview series that we do here presented by the Daily Dot, where we take somebody that is somebody who defines their genre, but in many cases transcends it. Today on the show we have Ryan Gootecks Gutierrez. People know him for Street Fighter, but his impact, as we're going to find out today, reaches beyond just the fighting game Street Fighter. Now, Ryan, first of all, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Anybody who doesn't know, Ryan's Street Fighter or fighting game career stretches quite a ways back to the Third Strike days, or the Third Strike champion. And as most recently as being the what were you telling us, Ray? Street Fighter 5.
The champion of Street Fighter 5.
He's the champion for Evo for Street Fighter 5.
E3, I think.
E3.
Yeah, I mean, I won a launch tournament at E3 for Street Fighter 5. I wouldn't say I'm the best, but I did well enough to win a PS4. So
hey, man, I would brag about that.
Right?
I would definitely brag about that. But what we want to talk about today is that you just launched a book.
I did.
Tournament champion, media mogul, author. The name of the book is Simplifying Street Fighter, a new player's guide to preparing for Street Fighter V. Gootecks, why did you decide to write this book?
I decided to write this book because I've been training people for the better part of the year, and I found myself explaining the same things to almost all of my students over and over and over. And it got to the point where I had trained so many new players because for some reason, like for example, other guys on our cross-counter training team include, Justin Wong, K-Brad, like these guys get all like the super strong, like tournament level players. For some reason, all the new players gravitate towards me. So I was explaining all these concepts over and over and over to the point where, because most of these guys that come to me, they come to me wanting to play like really technical characters because they see their favorite player on stream, styling on people on the Evo stage, and they think to themselves, well, I want to do that. And so they try to play all these wacky characters, but they don't have the fundamentals and the foundation that's required in order to have success with these characters. So invariably, when they come to me with these crazy characters, and then I destroy them with my basic, super vanilla, regular old Ryu. And then I have a serious talk with them about like fundamentals and like what they're really trying to get out of the game. So this book is kind of like a compilation of most of the first couple sessions that a lot of these guys would have with me.
And that's something
because it just seemed like it was easier to just put it in a book instead of like trying to like work with people one-on-one.
Now, the two things I want to say about that. One is, yes, the book is basically the new player's guide via a Ryu 101. Like the entire book is...
got you.
Exactly. So you're going to learn Ryu the whole way. Now, if you put it all in a book, put it on Amazon for free, are you not killing all your clientele base? Why would they want to pay for it then?
Oh, that's a good question. So basically, the book was free on Amazon for the first couple days, but now it is the huge handsome sum of $4.99. So I'm not really concerned about like killing the clientele because it's more interesting to me to try to help more people on a large scale, and if I can do that. Because originally, when I launched the training site, like I wasn't even one of the trainers, because I just wanted to facilitate other people doing it. Because I myself, I would rather like do more like high leverage things to try to help level up the community, such as writing a book. So I'm not really too worried.
And this book really does. I mean, this is for somebody who has seen it on Twitch or seen Evo or seen the highlight moments and like, damn, I would really like to participate, but I'm maybe a little scared. I mean, this book really holds your hand, not in a negative way, but I mean, it tells you everything from what kind of monitor to get. Like this is literally what you need to know. How did you decide where to set that bar? How much is the person reading this supposed to come in with?
I basically wrote this book with different types of people in mind, with a few actual people that I know IRL in mind, like guys who are leaders in their fields, which is not the gaming field, and they see Street Fighter V and they're like, "Damn, this game looks dope. I want to get into it. but I haven't played Street Fighter since I was, much, much younger, like like 10, 15 years ago, right? So this book is kind of written for players that don't have any current day Street Fighter experience. And the reason why I wanted to write with them in mind is because I feel like that's the vast majority of players. I mean, the guys that even get to the point where they're like, you know what? I want to book a session with Gootecks because I need help. Like those guys are even way further along than the guys that I'm actually going after, because when Street Fighter 5 comes out, there's going to be such an influx of new players, and most of them will have no idea where to start with. And yeah, I mean, yeah, of course we talk about hardware and we talk about the super basics, but I mean, these are the things that I think most other like there's not a lot of resources to explain these things to new players, like there's certainly lots of combo videos, there's tons of tournament footage, and that's great, but like if you can't even throw a fireball, then all this stuff is like useless to you until you've reached a certain level, like a super basic level of proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with you tell the book through a Street Fighter perspective. How would you feel about people perhaps who don't want to spend the money right away and who don't even want to learn the motions right away, learning the game through Rising Thunder or another free-to-play fighting game?
That's a good question. I guess a lot of the concepts. I mean, to be fair, I haven't spent a whole lot of time playing Rising Thunder because I've been writing this book. So I think a lot of the concepts that you'll learn in Street Fighter certainly apply to other fighting games. And there's one section in the book particularly where I'm talking about risk reward and decision making and like the basic mix-up game. So all of that can certainly be applied to any fighting game, including Rising Thunder. And a lot of the issues that new players struggle with Street Fighter specifically, such as execution, should mostly be removed from Rising Thunder, even though obviously like there is some execution. So I would say that although it is mostly geared towards Street Fighter players, because that's the game that I know the most about, it could certainly be applied to other fighting games.
Of course, there's been the shit talkers, right, saying, "Oh, the game's not even out yet. How the hell are you writing a book about it? You're just trying to ride that max CPM train, right?" I don't see it that way. I think it's a brilliant way to position yourself going into Street Fighter V, whereas all these new people, as you mentioned, there's going to be an influx of people coming into the game. How good would it be if they all see you as the authority on the subject early? I mean, is that part of the plan? Is that part of the plan?
You see through my master plan.
But
yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, the thing is, the title of the book specifically includes the word preparing. So yeah, I mean, it's not all even. It's mostly not about Street Fighter V. It's about getting ready for Street Fighter V, because even though the engine and the characters are a lot different, the core fundamentals of Street Fighter are the same across every single Street Fighter game. Space control, footsies, execution, all that stuff. So if you are not proficient in one or more of those different skill sets, then you're going to have an even harder time with Street Fighter V, because you're going to be playing catch-up. So rather than wait until Street Fighter V, instead, if you got started, today or like next month, you would have, several months of working on how to learn Street Fighter before, so that you would have the heads up on everybody else that was just waiting until the game actually launches. I mean, obviously, like, this is not, trust me, if you've been playing in tournaments, if you are like really good online or something, like, this book is not for you. This book is for people who have had a passing interest in Street Fighter 4, never really got into it because they didn't know how, and are really excited for Street Fighter 5 and want to make sure that they have like a path or a direction when the game comes out.
Is this Serlin Light, playing to win Light, or to any degree?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, I actually did another interview, and one of the questions was like, what inspired me to write the book? And one of the things that I mentioned was David Serlin's Playing to Win and Seth Killian's Domination 101 series. So both of these, like I actually have a I have a physical copy of Playing to Win, and I remember when I was, first getting started playing competitively, man, I was so excited to read whatever I could about how I could get better at Street Fighter. And I wished that at the time that there was more stuff like that because Domination 101 and Playing to Win are just they're really good. I just wish that there had been more of it at the time. So I'm trying to create that sort of resource for new players.
Ryan, I actually had the pleasure of meeting you before this show, and I remember talking with you in In-N-Out Burger about getting into the content creation scene. And I was talking about how I felt like it was flooded, and you said, no, there's a million places to go. There's so much content to be made. Now you've made a book. I'm on this show. What is there?
It worked.
It worked. Where do you get the inspiration, and what should be people looking to do who want to get into making stuff for the fighting game scene, or just video games or any content in general?
Where do I get inspiration? I guess I've been doing it for so long. This is not actually, this is the first Kindle ebook, but this is actually like ebook number 3. I mean, I've been making videos since, editing Third Strike ranking battles in like 2006, 2007, podcasts in 2008. I mean, I guess it's just something that I've been doing to the point where the inspiration will usually come from thinking of like a better way to deliver the information. When it comes to how to get into creating content, I mean, it can seem like we might look back in like 20, 25 years and be like, wow, like I should have started making YouTube videos back in like 2015 before this shit like really blew up, right? Because TV and mainstream media, like it's not getting any bigger, right? What's getting bigger is independent content creators. So it might seem right now like the market is really oversaturated and there's a million people trying to make videos or different types of content. And that is true for certain types of content. Like, for example, I think Let's Plays are extremely, oh my God. I just had a conversation with somebody really close to me about like doing Let's Play style YouTube videos.
Ryan,
and,
I'm glad you're bringing that up, Ryan, because that was one of the things, I mentioned at the top of the show that your influence transcends fighting games in that, to me, you're saying it sounded like you were about to say you don't like Let's Plays, but I could make the argument that you were doing Let's Plays with Mike Ross on Excellent Adventures before Let's Plays was a thing.
Correct. Yes. So let me get to that, right? So yeah, it is true that Excellent Adventures is like a Let's Play style type of video. However, when we first started, it depends on like your starting point, right? Like if you're just starting from scratch, you are somebody who's never made videos. You are not like eFamous or whatever. If you don't have any of that, you're just starting from scratch. In my opinion, like a Let's Plays is going to be like the longest road possible to success. And it's not that you won't get there because all you have to do is not stop, right? But it might take you. Who knows? Who knows how long it could take you? So I always advise content creators that are just starting out to create the content that is proportionate to the amount of results that you're going to get. So for example, if you're going to make a video and you about whatever game, let's say it was Street Fighter, right? But you spent like 2 weeks on this video, like night and day. You were like shooting, editing, and like trying to make it perfect, and then you upload it and you got like 50 views. Now you not wasted, but you spent 2 weeks of your life on this video that only 50 people saw. Was that a good use of time? Probably not. However, if you spent, an hour total shooting, editing, rendering, uploading, releasing, and you got 50 views, that's fine, because to me that was like proportionate to the amount of results that you got. Part of the issue with us with Excellent Adventures and why it sounds like hypocritical for me to say don't do Let's Plays. But the thing is, like Mike and I, we're not starting from scratch. Like we were already well known within fighting games and had already built an audience individually as well as like on my podcast and stuff. The other thing is that the early episodes of Excellent Adventures, when you go back and look, had zero editing. So we were doing all the production live. So we would just play. I would just hit record. All the audio was going into the HD PVR, and like once it was done, I would just upload it straight. So like there was no time wasted on editing and production. Now it's a little bit different, right? Like now we have Steve who shoots and edits. We got a fancy DSLR, but we're not starting from scratch. So I guess my advice to new content creators is to not invest too much time, because then you're going to burn yourself out really quick before you start to see results, because it's going to be a long road no matter how you do it.
Excellent Adventures. I'm glad you bring that up. Surely that's what a lot of people know you guys from, you and Mike Ross, and arguably what catapulted Mike Ross to his current level of fame. How do you feel about, I mean, you're dancing on it, but I want to know, like, how do you, as the guy who went and lived through it, feel about having started with those bedroom broadcast types, I just hit record and let it go into the dazzle, and to where you are now, where you're getting flown out, and even at the South by Southwest Fighters Invitational that was here in Austin, Texas earlier in this year, you were the host. When you chart y'all's progression, how does that make you feel?
I feel it feels good. When me and Mike first started, like we were just playing Street Fighter at Arcade Infinity and Video 94, like back, in like 2008. And, I was living at home, like I would have him over. We would do these podcasts. It was just audio. It was just us fucking around, like it was anything serious. And then I guess our big break to us at the time was like getting the opportunity to do the first Cross Counter YouTube show on Machinima. And like at the time, we shot that show in their conference room, literally sitting on boxes of paper, right? Like that is not an exaggeration, but we thought we hit the big time, right? So when we look back, when we go to different events, whether it's South by and doing hosting, Mike's got Capcom Pro Talk, this dude's always going out to Japan and going worldwide to be on like big production streams, we'll go to Germany to do all this crazy whatever. I don't even remember what it was called anymore, but like,
what was that? That was a cool thing when they invited those guys. What was that called? Dagnabbit.
It was cool for a hot minute.
Yeah,
and then it fell apart. But when we look at when we look at where we are now, and then we look at where we were when we started, like it feels good, But at the same time, like hopefully where we are is not the peak, and this is just like the beginning. It's because everything is just like a stepping stone to the next thing. But at the same time, we try not to feel ourselves too hard.
Speaking of the next thing, as I understand correctly, you'll be at TwitchCon, and that brings up an interesting point. The fact that that there even is a TwitchCon, I think, is indicative of where we are in this moment in time. But prior to the show, you brought up something very interesting, a discussion to be had between live streaming content and producing content for YouTube. Let's just start there. I mean, what's the difference? What are the benefits? Obviously, people know you for Excellent Adventures, and those are pre-taped and then rolled out. Currently, they roll out every Sunday, or you can buy them early in one chunk. Ryan, are you there? It looks like you froze. Did we lose Gootecks?
Sure.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. So sorry. I think what you were saying is asking what the difference was between doing it live and doing pre-recorded stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So for us, it's a little bit different because we have always done our stuff like pre-recorded, and it's debatable, but if we were to try to do our stuff live, the show would actually be much different based on like the hardware capabilities, as well as needing another person actually in addition to Steve on production because we would need one person, let's say on XSplit hitting, pressing the buttons, and then one person to hold the camera. So for us, doing it live is not necessarily it would kind of change things, and there's no real reason for us to do it live. For other people, like for example, with what we're doing on this particular show, right? If you guys are streaming it live and you have, strong production and high quality audio and everything, then it makes sense to take the archive and then upload that straight to YouTube. And so you're almost like double dipping in a way, right? Because you'll do it assuming, right, that you were like partnered and had like 5,000 viewers, right? Like you're kind of double dipping on your CPM, right? Because you're doing it live on Twitch, and then you upload the archive to YouTube, and then you're making the CPM on both the archive and doing it live. So for some things it works really well, and that's actually where I see a lot of people neglect one side or the other. Like, for example, we neglect live, but that's because we really like the production that we have with our particular show. Other people I see neglect YouTube because they're so focused on Twitch and getting like CPM or donations or whatever. But to me, to neglect YouTube is to neglect an entire other half of your potential in terms of like making the money.
Gootecks, thank you for that insight. We've been getting questions from the chat, and of course, a lot of your fans are in here and they have questions for you. Some of them, are a result of the fact that you teach people how to play. And Azur Wolf Blaze asks, maybe this is a specific question, but how do you get better with characters like Abel? Because I'm struggling with his roll cancels.
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard to say without, seeing him play how he could get better. But if you're struggling with something like roll cancels, I see this is where I'm like, I mean, I play Abel. I don't even know what you would cancel his roll into. So so what it sounds to me like he's trying to do something that's like really technical.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that a lot of new players will struggle with. They think that in order to be good, they need to learn all about option selects and how to do FADCs and all this stuff that's like way, way, way like too advanced for where they're at. So usually when I run across players like this, they usually have some huge gaping holes in the foundation of their play, such as execution and not being able to do certain moves. So I always advise that people just, unfortunately, like just go back to the basics before you start worrying about like the super technical stuff.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to say, go read my book and pick Ryu.
or hey, buy the book and see what kind of insight is in there.
All right, hey Gootecks, we got another question from the chat, and we want to ask more about what are your plans here on out. You've written your book, you've gotten the feedback, everyone loves it, but we're still interested in seeing you as a Street Fighter V player. Are we going to see that happen, or what's the next step from here?
The next step from here is to continue with the direction that I'm going. So right now it's, work on Excellent Adventures, work on the next book, and then creating, more books, not necessarily from me, but just helping to facilitate the production of more books from, different players that, I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing from. In terms of playing, I can definitely tell you that Street Fighter V is it's so refreshing to actually like have fun with the new game again. So in terms of playing, I don't know exactly where it will take me, but so far from playing the game at almost every single convention that Capcom has shown it at since E3, I really enjoy all the characters. It's so much fun to play. So I'm just gonna see where it takes me.
Man, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I want to touch a little bit about more books coming out. Like, do you mean like maybe an intermediate level, advanced mind game level kind of thing, or?
Yeah. Like, so the first book, I wanted to. Part of the struggle that I went through with the first book is to figure out what the best way to distribute was. Once I understood and had a better idea of how to distribute through Kindle, then it became clear that I should just hurry up and get this first book out as soon as possible to even determine whether or not it was worth it to just keep on like trying to write this way. Now that I've released it, I think it's fair to say, based on the initial response, that distributing this way and the concept of like having a book to simplify Street Fighter, as it were, I think it works. So the next book, because this book is kind of just like bringing people up to proficiency, the next book will be kind of like, okay, well, now that you kind of know how to play, what is the most effective and efficient way to systematically and incrementally improve as a player. So that'll be the next book.
Rubber Ducky in the chat asks, do you feel that age plays a factor in playing competitive fighting games? And I'd like to add, do you teach people differently depending on their age?
You calling me old? This guy's calling me old. Right?
He's calling you old, man.
Rubber
He's calling you
Ducky.
old.
Yeah, so age can definitely play a factor, but probably not in the way that you think, right? So a lot of people would think, okay, well, as you get older, your reactions are not as good, but it's really not about reactions. In fact, if you look at players like Daigo and Alex Valle and John Choi, I mean, these are definitely not young guys, but you can put them up against almost any young guy and they will beat them. If not, they'll have a good match with anybody, is what I'm saying. So, like, just because you're older doesn't mean that you couldn't play fighting games. And in fact, it can be an asset in the sense that, in the same way that when you watch a kung fu movie and you got to go to the top of the mountain to train with the master is not some young kid that you train with. The master is like an old dude with a long ass white beard because he's been fighting since before you were born. So yeah, when I train people, depending on their age, yeah, it is a little bit different because most people that are older, like people in the grown ass man category, right? Like we got jobs, we got girlfriends, we got lives, families, like, right? Like when you're younger, if you're still like in school, whether it's high school or college, university, you have a lot more time, so you can kind of allocate your time differently and spend more time just like playing and grinding it out. But when you're older, you only have maybe like an hour a day if you're lucky, dude. If you got a full-time job, you got an hour a day to play, like that's pretty good. So you have to make sure that the hour that you allocate to playing fighting games is effective. So, that's one of the things that, well, I guess will be covered in the next book is like proper workflow on how to systematically like patch all the holes in your game.
We're taking questions from the chat, but I know for a fact that Radical Ray Chun, our compadre over here, a Balrog player, has some specific questions about
Sure.
Balrog for you.
Oh man, I
Okay.
used to watch your Balrog videos and play all the time. I was like, man, this guy is something else. And then when I finally could understand what the Gootecks shimmy was, that like, I thought you were a genius, and I still think you are a genius. Like,
Thank you.
how do you come up with these things and like, providing that tech to like, let's say the community? Like, do you think it's just through like constant playing and then these things you just figure out as a player, or is it kind of influence somewhere else?
Okay, so just between us, the Gootecks shimmy was developed because I had gotten hit by the third strike equivalent thousands and thousands and thousands of times, to the point where I believe the Gootecks shimmy to be like the counterbalance of my karma, if that makes sense. In third strike, if you did wake up throw, it in the wrong situation, you were probably going to lose the round depending on the character that you went up against. I, as a new player, had the terrible, terrible habit of whiffing throws, and I've lost so many times when I first started playing to that. So when Street Fighter 4 came out, nobody really understood anything about crouch teching, which for those that are not familiar, which is performing the input for the throw while you're crouching, such that the throw won't come out if you're crouching. So if they throw you, you tech. If they don't throw, all you get is a crouching light kick. That didn't exist at the beginning of Street Fighter 4. So I would exploit what was my weakness in third strike on other people, and I would, walk up next to them as they were getting up, take a small step forward, and then punish them with Balrog because you're already charging. So I mean, it's not like, oh, I sat in the lab and was like, it'd be really sick is if I came up with this thing called the Gootecks shimmy. It was not like that. It was more like I got hit by it so many times that I did it to other people in the new game.
And because of that, you've helped out thousands of Balrogs out there. So, on behalf of them, we say thank you.
I think anybody would be proud to have like their name attached to
Yeah,
like
to
a
the
specific move.
All
or
right,
something.
we've got a couple more laughable questions. Just gonna fire a couple off. Do you think that your writing will ever get you more famous than the PogChamp emote on Twitch?
Oh my god. The PogChamp emote on Twitch is probably gonna be on my fucking tombstone. When I'm dead. And any other work that I could fucking find the cure for cancer and AIDS together, and it wouldn't matter, and it would pale in comparison to that stupid emoticon.
And then, where is Dogface?
That is a great question. Dogface, I think. See, this is, when we talk about getting old and how our training time has to be more efficient, at some point, everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody gets to the point where real life takes over. They have their girlfriends, their casual significant significant others turn into committed relationships, and those committed relationships then one day morph into like marriage. And at some point everybody gets caught in the trap, so you got to make sure that your training time is efficient. I believe that Dogface had to get a real job and is still probably happily with his girlfriend, who is probably, they might be married by now, I don't know, who knows. But he's long gone out of the scene.
Ryan, I have one final question for you to wrap up the Player One interview that we're doing here. And this is actually something that you brought up a couple years ago when I was speaking to you on a different project. You were in this much the same state of, this is what we're doing, this is how I'm developing, this is how I'm helping the scene. But you said, now if anybody can figure out how to get girls to show up to these events, they'll solve everything. Where are we on that front?
I see. Okay, so now, being old, I can look back at my youth and realize the flaw in my mentality at the time. That is an initiative that I have abandoned because I don't think. Because now it's clear to me that was not the right way to look at it. So I don't know where we're at with that. But me personally, I haven't put any I haven't put any effort into doing that. Instead, I'm just trying to put my efforts into getting any type of new player into the scene, and that's why I wrote the book. Whether they're guys, girls, or whatever, it's for anybody.
I guess it wasn't entirely clear whether you meant get more women in the scene as competitors or get the guys that are in the scene to be attractive to women, if that's your proclivity. As in, like, we're cool, girls, check us out.
See, that's something. Okay, getting more girls into the scene is like a controversial topic because it could go either way. For me, I just took the approach of, how do I make myself better so that I can be like a role model for when people are like, hey, this guy is playing fighting games, like he looks like a normal, well-adjusted human being. Maybe this guy is somebody to watch. I've just been working on that for myself.
I even hear a few years ago, you started working out, had this whole fitness thing going on your Twitter, stuff like that. Was this kind of like a little part of playing in that?
Oh, most definitely. I started lifting like a year and a half ago, and I only wish that I had done it sooner, because it's taught me so much about how to look at life in terms of small, tiny progress instead of trying to make big, quantum leaps. So, like, part of being a well-adjusted human, right, is like being presentable in front of others, right? So, like, if I want to be on a person that's on stage hosting or playing, or if I want to be somebody, on YouTube that can transcend the internets, right, then I gotta make sure that. And you wouldn't know it from looking at the fact that I haven't shaved in like a month or whatever. But like, aside from that, I'm trying to be as presentable as possible so that, hey, I can be somebody that is a no-brainer to, like look up to or sponsor or be like, hey, like that's a good looking dude up there, you know, like I want to cheer for that guy, you know. So I want to try to change that negative gamer stereotype that I think a lot of us aren't you know perpetuating, you know, but you know the outside world, they have this perspective on like what gamers are. So I'm just trying to do my part to change all of that.
We want to thank you for coming on to Player One. This is a show that we do periodically where we interview people who are luminaries in esports and competitive gaming in general. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I think that your efforts have transcended just the fighting games, and we're happy that you're able to make some time. Before we let you go, please let us know where we can find the book, where we can find Excellent Adventures and all that good stuff, and learn more about you and the things that you put out there.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to chat with you guys about, you know, all this content stuff. Like this is the stuff that gets me really excited. In addition to, you know, fighting games and stuff. But you can check out the book by going to Amazon and searching for Simplifying Street Fighter. I should have bought the domain. I'm lagging it. What can I say? Put all my efforts into writing the book and like not that much into promoting it. But if you go to Amazon on any Amazon store, actually you should go to the Amazon store for your home country and type in Simplifying Street Fighter, and you can find it on the Kindle store. It's available now on Kindle. If you don't have a Kindle, it's okay, because there is an app for whatever device you would like to read it on, whether it's mobile, laptop, desktop, Windows, Mac, iOS, Android. There is a reader for Kindle for every platform. You can find Excellent Adventures on excellentadventures.tv. We're about to put out new episodes with
let us have it. Who's on it? Let's get the exclusive here.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yes, the exclusive for my boys at the Daily Dot, of course. The exclusive is we have Bobby Scar from Melee It On Me.
Oh, dang.
Yeah,
Is this
so
going to be a
for those-
Smash Adventures?
No. Actually, Bobby Scar plays Street Fighter.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
So,
okay.
unfortunately, because Mike and I are incompetent, ignorant assholes, like we are incapable of playing Smash Brothers. But Bobby Scar is like a fucking super genius that can play Street Fighter and Smash Brothers. So we have him on the show. Those episodes, I'm actually not quite sure when they're coming out, but we already shot them and they are uploaded and they are in the process of being released. And if you don't want to go and check them out on excellentadventures.tv, you can check out the new episodes for freezies on youtube.com/crosscountertv. If you got questions about Street Fighter, also like crosscountertraining.com, myself, a bunch of other fighting game players such as Justin Wong, K-Brad, Chris G, Alex Myers, Broly Legs, like all these guys offer training through our site. You can follow me on Twitter at Gootecks. Follow me on Instagram. Check out photos of my food and all these
doing
things.
squats.
Yeah, squats, deadlifts, and food, and a little bit of Street Fighter.
Ryan, again, thank you so much. Talking about transcending fighting games, bringing those communities together, I think that would be, you could hang your hat on that. If you
Smash
brought
Brothers
the
and
Smash.
Street Fighter?
Oh, yeah. That would be a feat.
You know, if there was one, you know, Bobby may be like the missing link, as it were. Like Bobby is like the Bigfoot of like fighting, right? Because I don't know a lot of other people out there. There's nobody I can think of off the top of my head that is good in Street Fighter that went to Smash.
Yeah.
But Bobby could actually be the guy to unite, you know, to bring everybody together.
Excellent. Well, once again, thank you so much for being on Player One. Ryan, we look
Thank you
forward
for
to
having
your
me.
future projects, man. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you for watching Player One, presented by The Daily Dot.